Hello and welcome to Italian Serie A Matchday 33. It looked like a title winner. The victory Inter got in Como for the way it happened, for the way they celebrated. Of course, Leo is 9 points distance with Napoli. We didn't have any doubts, but now we can give the trophy to Inter before they play also an important game, the Coppa semifinals.
Yes, and they will face the same Como side. They beat 4-3 on the weekend. It's going to be in San Siro, not at the Lake. It was, for me, the best game of the season. That Como Inter at the Lake last weekend, and against Cagliari, Inter can start collecting their medals, Edu.
Yeah, maybe it's a good season after all. Of course, Inter winning the Scudetto. Yeah. Let's see if they win the Coppa. The only thing, of course, was the way they exited the Champions League against 𝐵𝗲𝗏𝗀. Yeah. But it's a transition season, in my opinion, with 𝐬𝐭𝐴 on the bench after 𝗍𝐴ZZ𝐵, after so many success with the Italian manager. Let's see what happens also in this Coppa Italia tie. Well, let's analyze everything in Italy. Guys, let me know in the comments what you think also about Inter season, about 𝐶➖𝐭𝐻. And now let's go on with the show. And we have two games on Friday because of this Coppa Italia tie. We have Sassuolo Como, you mentioned. Como playing a great game also against Inter. They were 2-0 up. It was a thriller. They could have drawn also the game with Ramon in the very last minute, with always the Argentinian 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐴 leading this team. But also they have to pay attention to Serie A, Leo, because they want to qualify for the Champions League, and it's a tricky game, in my opinion, this one. For Como is not easy going to Sassuolo. 3 wins in the last 4 games for Sassuolo.
Yes, that's true, Edu, but they're still favorite, I believe. Como, especially after what they've shown against Inter. It's true, the last time away for Como was a 0-0 against Udinese, when they dropped the level after 5 consecutive wins for Fabregas' team. Como losing with Inter is something that it should happen. The favorite won, and we tipped that on the last show. But when you are 2-0 up, it's almost half time, and you end up in the losing side. It is painful and also costly, because Juventus overtook Como in fourth. Como has conceded 26 goals this season, and 8 of them were against Inter, almost 1/3 of the total. But it was the best game of the season in Italy. For me, a type of showdown that Serie A needs to be taken seriously by the wider audience, I would say. On Sunday at the Lake, Como dictated the match on the first half. Sergio Roberto bringing his experience in midfield. He replaced 𝐋𝐞𝐭'𝐬, who came on the second half. 𝗵𝗏𝗍 was the left back, but he was attacking the box like a number 9. He scored the opening goal, actually, after a move from 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐴, who then moved magnificently again and scored his 11th goal of the season. It's just amazing 2025-2026 for him. The killer for Como was Thuram goal before the break, and they cannot allow also themselves to concede straight away again in the restart. But their chances of the top 4 for me remains intact, Edu. They still have Napoli to play, yes, but then they also have Genoa, Cremonese, Parma, Verona, and this game with Sassuolo. And Juve will have Bologna, Milan, Torino, Fiorentina. So it's painful for Como, but nothing changed substantially, I would say. Sassuolo at the back of the defeat with Genoa. There was more fight than football. In Genoa, 5 yellow cards, 2 red cards, 3 defeats in the last 5, but an amazing campaign, nevertheless, for them. At home, as you said, it's 3 wins in the last 4 for Sassuolo, and one of them against Atalanta. But Como the favorites here, and I will take that route. Como to win, combined with Como first team to score, these two together, odds of 2.6.
All right, and the other team playing this Coppa Italia semifinals is Inter. They celebrated the win at the Lake as a trophy. Brace from Thuram, brace from Dumfries, and scoring plenty of goals. Leo was 4 against Como, 5 against Roma. And Cagliari came almost relaxed, almost safe. It was a key victory against Cremonese with Esposito scoring the goal, +6 now with the relegation.
Yes, and look, I was saying that at the start that Inter can start collecting the medals against Cagliari because a win will take the lead to 12 points above Napoli with 15 points to play for Inter. It's pretty much simple math. Inter can win the Scudetto not this weekend, but the following one if they win against Cagliari and Torino, and if Napoli either draw or lose in their next two, in that case, they will open at least 13 points gap with Napoli with 4 games remaining. It was a magic comeback for them at the expense, as I mentioned, of the best defense in Serie A. 𝐬𝐭𝐴 has been growing with the team. There's still some question marks about him and the approach to big games, but that was also changing during the season. Edu, he got wins in the end against Juventus at home, or this one against 𝐿𝐵𝐵𝐻 at the Lake with Milan. In both derbies, the story was different, but this is a season to remember as well, where he gave the chance to players like Pio Esposito. He took 𝐷iMarco to an MVP level, and last weekend he got back the best of Dumfries. And talking about Esposito, well, his brother Sebastiano was the one giving Cagliari, Edu, the huge 3 points at home against Cremonese to win after 4 consecutive defeats and to make it 6 points the gap with the red zone. But this weekend they're going to be looking more at what Lecce and Cremonese are doing rather than what they could do in San Siro against this Inter. Might take here Inter to win 2-0, 1.87.
Let's focus on the games we have on Saturday. We have 3. Udinese, Parma, almost nothing on stake here. Both teams are safe, I would say. Parma +9 now with the relegation zone after getting a draw against Napoli and Lazio, winless in 6, and Udinese in great form. What a win in San Siro.
Wow, impressive. The game of the season for Udinese, running riot in San Siro. They have won away against Inter and Napoli this season as well. I'm trusting too much my memory, which maybe I shouldn't do, but I think they are the only team to have done this season, to have won against Inter and Milan. Sorry, not Napoli, Inter and Milan away this season. They would have been happy winning 1-0, but to do it 3-0 is not for everyone. The worst thing for Udinese, Edu, is that, which I find annoying, is that I cannot fully trust them going into this game. The instinct in saying, yes, X1 should be the rational choice after you win in San Siro, but when you are inconsistent as Udinese and even Parma, things are even more difficult to read. For Parma, big point against Napoli at the Tardini, 9 points above Lecce and Cremonese, perfect start, scoring after 30 seconds with Estrefesa, his first goal of the season, and probably one of the most important of the campaign for Parma. Pellegrino was suspended. He's going to be back now against Udinese, which is great for Parma and Carlo Cuesta. Is 2 wins in the last 3 matches for Udinese. At home, they lost 2 and won 2 of the last 5. As I said, the consistency of votes is not giving me the chance to go X1 or X2. I guess some people will take the X1 or the double chance Parma's route. But my take here is the goals market. Goals under 2.5, odds of 1.62.
And Napoli, Lazio also playing Coppa Italia semi-finals. Their season has been very poor, only could be safe. In Coppa Italia, lost to Fiorentina. They are 9th in the standings. So Napoli favorites, Leo, despite dropping points against Parma. McTominay once again the hero scoring, but they are still second. Important to keep this second place also to qualify for the Super Coppa next season.
Yeah, so they conceded almost in the changing room against Parma, as I mentioned, after 30 seconds. They dominated the game, but they lacked a bit of creativity. Look at the stats, almost 75% possession, 20 shots. They put 37 crosses, but at the same time, they rarely tested Suzuki, apart from that big chance of 𝐿𝐵𝐻 at the end of the game with an incredible header. The issues were in the final third. That's why I'm saying a lack of creativity. Anyway, I don't think that Parma would have played differently, even if they wouldn't have scored so early in the game. And probably, for sure, Napoli prepared for this type of game with Parma sitting deep. But that's why in this type of game, I think is when Napoli misses the most Vergara or Neres, because they have 1v1 and that can unlock a defense that is sitting very deep. And Napoli overly relied on Kevin De Bruyne crosses or the wingback crosses. And we're always going to have this season in our minds, probably the feeling that if Napoli would not have had so many injuries, maybe, or if they would not have lost Kevin De Bruyne for months as well because of injury, things could have been different, or they could have been closer to Inter at this stage. But still, they won a Super Cup, and they're going to play Champions League football next season, and they're still going to have Antonio Conte in the bench, who in the end, he clarified what he said a week earlier, he's not going to go for the Nazionale. And Lazio, yes, defeated Fiorentina. Inconsistency is the key for them. A season without a number 9 almost, because when Tati Castellano was there the first semester, he was not scoring. Then he left for West Ham, and Lazio is playing without a number 9. They lost their most important player. Sarri needs the summer to come. He's saying it has been the most difficult season of his career, a devastating season for him. That's what he says. My take here, Edu, Napoli, first team to score, combined with goals under 3.5, these two together odds of 2.31.
And one of the games of the weekend, if not the game, is Roma-Atalanta for the European spots. Now 4 points between these two teams. Of course, 𝐻𝐵cerini in the spotlight. Atalanta lost against Juventus, but deserved much more. They are still in really good form, and I can see value actually on Atalanta. Is 3.2 for them to win, or the double chance also could be a good idea. Roma won against Pisa, against Lecce, the last two home games, but they have to step up in these kind of nights. Leo, and at least, I guess, among all the failures this season, bringing Mahler in winter was a good one.
Yeah, it was the best decision they could have taken, of course. With his hat-trick against Pisa, his 10 goals in 12 games in Serie A for him. He's arriving. He's Roma's MVP this season with that little play, which tells us a lot. Roma, anyways, is burning, even with that win, Edu, which was important to get back on the winning ways after the disaster in San Siro with Inter, but they are burning because they infight between Ranieri and 𝐻𝐵cerini. Ranieri could leave to take the Nazionale because he can't stand 𝐻𝐵cerini anymore. Totti was about to be named in some sort of official capacity, but they now have delayed the decision because Totti doesn't know if he's going to work with Ranieri or 𝐻𝐵cerini, or maybe even without both of them in the next few months. Ranieri said things that he should not have said before the game with Pisa, going live on TV saying that 𝐻𝐵cerini was not his first choice, that he went first for Fabregas, but 𝐿𝐭𝐵𝐻𝐿 did not even listen to them. Then he went for Ernesto Valverde, and then he went for Unai Emery, and they both said no to him. And then came the chance for 𝐻𝐵cerini. So you don't say that your current manager was your fourth option before going into a game, and when you're still fighting for a Champions League position. And Atalanta, Edu, they deserve better against Juventus because they dominated the game. 1.66 expected goals for Atalanta, 19 shots on goal, most share of the possession, but still, in the end, they needed to hand the win to Juventus, considering at the start of the second half, one of the best performances of Atalanta under Palladino, especially the first half. They won 2 of the last 6 in Serie A, and those have been against Lecce and Verona, and that's why their chances of Champions League football have decreased in the last few weeks for Atalanta. Good odds either way, as you mentioned before, Edu, but my take here is the both team to score, yes, 1.78.
For Sunday, we have Cremonese Torino. Cremonese is still outside the relegation spots because both Cremonese and Lecce are losing all the games, not because Cremonese are doing good things. Lost to Cagliari, lost to Bologna, 6 defeats in the last 7 games for Cremonese, and still they are not in relegation. Torino, it was a bumpy season, Leo, but they beat Verona and Pisa, and they are safe.
Yeah, they are safe, Edu, and it's a miracle from Cremonese. I will extend a little bit the stat you gave about their defeats. They won 1 game in the last 18 matches and 13 defeats in that process. Still, they are not in the dropping club. It's amazing. They lost, anyway, a massive 6-pointer with Cagliari. They have Jamie Vardy injured, and they rely much more in what Lecce is doing than in what they could do. They're a team that hardly creates chances to score. This said, anyway, they weren't so poor against Cagliari, at least until Esposito scored in the 60th minute. But after that, they completely lost confidence and to change the equalizer. They cannot score. 8 goals in the last 18 matches that I mentioned before. Torino positive match day 32, the win against Verona to make it 4 wins in the last 6 for the Granata, which have given them peace in terms of looking down. 𝐿𝐭𝐵𝐺 scoring his 9th goal of the season. Cesare Casadei, the midfielder that we talked about last show, he scored the 2nd one. It could have been free for Torino, but Che Adams' goal was denied by the VAR intervention. Cremonese will expect more from Fiorentina against Lecce than from themselves in Turin. My take here, Torino double chance combined with goals under 3.5. These two together, odds of 1.8.
Impossible to trust indeed. Cremonese, impossible to trust. Verona going to Serie B, 4 consecutive defeats. Another team, Leo, 7 defeats in the last 8, but you can put the whole season. It's been a disaster. And Milan, I'm not sure if they can lose the Champions League spot. You remember David being concerned about the Rossoneri. It was a horrible game. They won against Udinese, also lost to Napoli. So it's 3 defeats in the last 4 games. And the distance with Como is 5 points, could be only 2 before kickoff.
Yeah, I agree that the feeling we have is now they can't lose the Champions League position. But even Allegri was saying after the defeat of Udinese that battle is at risk, you know, and we are saying, or we can be saying, no, Milan is not going to lose the Champions League position. And then that happens. It's like in the Premier League, no, Tottenham is not going to get relegated. At the end of the day, 6 games to play and they're in the relegation zone. So they need to be careful. At least it was a dreadful performance against Udinese. Allegri changed system. He went for a 4-3-3. Leao, again, as a striker. He's not a striker. Milan was whistle off. Leao was whistle off. I don't know how Allegri sees Leao as a center forward. He can't play there. He does not move as a number 9. And the problems in that position are massive for this Milan, because Füllkrug and Santi Jimenez and 𝐿𝐭𝐴 are not at the level, because Leao is not a number 9, because Pulisic has not scored in 2026. They are playing now Verona, a game which they should win, and they're going to win, I believe. But they will the next weekend they will face Juventus. And if they lose against Juventus, they're going to be level on points. And Como is there, Roma is there. That's why it's just 6 points separating 3rd position from 6th. That's why the situation is at least tense for the Rossoneri. But again, against Verona, there shouldn't be any excuses. They're going to be playing Serie B next season, 8 defeats in the last 9. My take here, Milan to win, combined with goals over 1.5. These two together, odds of 2.1.
Another one going to Serie B, Pisa, Genoa, only 2 wins this season. What to say about Pisa? At least they got promoted and they enjoyed a season in Serie A, but they are not scoring. They only score in 2 out of the last 8 games, for instance, and same strike, 7 defeats in the last 8. For them, therefore, Leo, Genoa are favorites, but still good odds to back them, 2.3.
Yeah. Yes, very, very good odds on Genoa. Massive win against Sassuolo to stay in Serie A. If they want the certificate that they're going to be playing Serie A next season, which they will anyway. They now can win against Pisa, and they're going to be fine for sure. Huge achievement for DDR, for Daniele De Rossi. He proved himself after Roma with the Genoa. The players bought his ideas and spirit. He has a massive percentage of all this. He looked exhausted after the game, like if he was playing. He leaves the game in a 𝐿𝐭𝐵𝐺𝐵 fashion, if you like. I would say DDR. As I mentioned before with Sassuolo, it was very tense, a lot of fight, 5 yellow cards, 2 red cards in that match, which in Italy they call it the World Cup winners game because of Genoa had Daniele De Rossi and Sassuolo Fabio Grosso. But it's now 4 wins and a draw in the last 8 for Genoa. On the road is 1 win in the last 3. But they are, yes, the favorites to win here against relegated Pisa. Last one, take Genoa to win.
And the last game we have on Sunday is Juve Bologna. This one also for the Champions League. Juventus now with a good streak after being knocked out from the Champions League. 4 wins and 2 draws. And they are indeed in the 4th spot after beating Atalanta. It was a lucky win, but still 3 important points. Bologna, Leo, I guess distracted after playing on Thursday in Birmingham against Aston Villa.
Yes, Edu, we're going to see how they're going to arrive after the trip to Birmingham in a tie, which, as we talk on the show, of the Europa League show with you and with Alain, is very difficult for them to overturn. Juventus, massive win, not much more, but still meant a lot for them to take advantage of 𝐿𝐭𝐵𝐺𝐻 defeat with Inter, and now to put pressure even on Milan, who they will face next weekend. 6 games without defeat in Serie A for Juventus. When that run started, in the 3-3 at the Olimpico against Roma, if Juventus finishes in the top 4, Federico Gatti's goal for the equalizer on added time on that night should be branded goal of the season for Juventus. They went from being 7 points behind Roma to this situation. Or maybe we can even trace the start of this Serie A comeback a few days before that draw at the Olimpico, when they won against Galatasaray in the second leg of the playoff of the Champions League, which in the end was a useless win, but created, I think, a new belief in Spalletti's project. Spalletti signed now his contract until 2028, and in Bergamo it was a difficult night for 𝐿𝐴 because they were pinned back into their own half for long periods, especially in the first half. But then they found the goal with Jeremy Boga 3 minutes into the second half. 4 goals in 9 games for him since arriving. The bad news is that 𝐭𝐚𝐲 could not finish the game because of injury. He's in doubt for Sunday. 𝐶𝐭𝐚𝐲 has also fitness issues. Atalanta proposed this 1v1 all over the pitch. Well, Vincenzo Italiano we know him. He's going to offer much of the same, which is complicating, as we could see, Juventus. But again, we need to see how they're going to arrive to this game. However, away from home, they are doing very well. Bologna, Edu, 8 wins in the last 9 in all competitions. They finally won as well a home game last weekend against Lecce without a problem. But again, considering the away record of Bologna, considering the way they play, which could make Juventus suffer, as happened with Atalanta, I believe there is value in the double chance here, Edu. And that is going to be my take, despite the good moment of Juventus. But I didn't like too much what I've seen against Atalanta. Bologna, double chance, 2.7.
Okay, this is risky, taking in consideration also Bologna traveling to Birmingham on Thursday in the Europa League. And the last game on Monday is Lecce Fiorentina. Fiorentina also involved in the conference, although it's going to be very difficult for them to play the third final in a row. But at least, Leo, they are almost safe in Serie A +8, and we thought they might be relegated in December. It was a very dark future for La Viola, but now +8 with Lecce. But Lecce, Leo, another team that is unable to win a game. The team that gets safe between Cremonese or Lecce is going to be with a really bad point tally, to be honest. almost both, I would say they deserve to be relegated if we check the numbers.
Yes, I do, but I think that between the two, Lecce and Cremonese, probably Lecce has a little bit an upper hand, even if at the moment they're on the red zone. Because look, the next 3 games for Lecce are massive, the most important of the season. Of course, they are huge games because they are fighting to avoid relegation, but they have Fiorentina and then Verona and Pisa in succession. So it's going to be a 6-pointer after 6-pointer, and Cremonese, with whom Lecce, as I said, are fighting to stay in Serie A, they're going to be playing Torino this weekend, and then it's Napoli and Lazio. So Lecce has 3 huge chances in front of them to stay in Serie A. They will need to do better than in Bologna last weekend, for sure, against Fiorentina. My feeling was that Lecce was almost throwing that game because they know that the fight for relegation starts on Monday. For them, it's 6 defeats and 2 wins in the last 8. Fiorentina is going to arrive, or is arriving with fresh air after the 1-0 against Lazio, to stay now 8 points above the red zone. As you mentioned, Conference League against Crystal Palace, but impossible for me to overturn that 3-0 in the first leg. They have steadied the ship, 3 wins and a draw in the last 4, and 2 of those 3 wins were 6-pointers, Verona and Cremonese. But on Monday, Edu, I think there is a result which both could look with good eyes, and that is a draw. And that's my take. Draw at 3.4.
All right, this is it for our Serie A Match Day 33. Remember, guys, that you have our tipster competitions available for you where you can make some money. The monthly one, halfway, in April, and also check out Rivals and create your own tipster competition. Challenge your friends. Leo, your safe bet?
Roma, Atalanta, goals over 1.5, odds of 1.33.
And your ACCA?
Inter to win 2-0, Napoli to win, Roma, Atalanta, both teams to score. Yes, these 3 together, 5.38.
Thank you, Leo. See you next week. Bye-bye.